Hey everyone, it's Sean, apharaoh12 here, and welcome back to the channel for the 2022 review. First off, Happy New Year's to everyone. I hope 2023 is going well for you so far in these first couple of days. Sorry that this is coming out a few days later than I was originally expecting. Kind of took that last second trip to Arkansas for the Smarty Jones Stakes this past weekend, so that took priority over making this video just to make sure I got those up when they happened. Still a couple more videos from that trip, so make sure you're staying tuned. But first off, I want to get started off by saying thank you to all of you for all the support that you've shown me this year. It has been an unbelievable, incredible year. Way surpassed any expectations that I had for myself. You know, we started this channel in October of 2021 with the Knicks Go and the Lucas Classic video. And the idea for that was just, I took all this footage and had nothing to do with it really. And was like, well, I'm gonna enjoy watching this. Might as well see if other people would enjoy watching it too. So edited it together, put it up on YouTube. And wow, since then, we've really taken off. Thanks in large part to the Kentucky Derby this year and Rich Strike. But we have done such a great job this year. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the support that you all have given me. There's much more to come though. 2022 was fun, but we have an insane 2023 planned. You know, hopefully everything that I'm hoping to do this year is going to come true. And we're going to be able to see some pretty cool races. I'll keep some of that under wraps for right now, but let's get into delving into 2022, shall we? So 2022 was absolutely phenomenal. Started off the year with Knicks Go versus Life is Good in the big matchup of the Pegasus World Cup. By the middle of the year, we had the insane long shot story of Rich Strike winning the Kentucky Derby at 80-1 odds. And then we finished off the year by watching Flightline, one of the greatest horses that we've ever seen in this sport, just completely dominate the Breeders' Cup Classic. Not to mention all the other great race horses and great races that we saw in between. And luckily enough, here on this channel, we were able to attend quite a few of the big races. We went to all three of the Triple Crown races. We went to the Breeders' Cup World Championships, the Pegasus World Cup, all sorts of big races. We saw a lot of grade ones, and we had a whole lot of fun doing so. In 2022, we attended 13 different racetracks, including 3 that I had never attended before. We even managed to visit an extinct racetrack that's still standing but no longer runs races in Atlantic City Racecourse. Make sure you check out that video if you haven't already. That was a pretty cool thing for me to go do. I really enjoyed seeing that. In total, we filmed over 200 videos. We had over 3 million views on the channel, and I gained over 6,000 subscribers this year, 2022. So I'm glad that all of you were able to come along with me on this journey throughout the year, seeing some of the top races that we have. And you don't even know how much footage that I took this year. There is so much footage that I have that I haven't even released. I filmed pretty much every 2-year-old race that I see, even though most of them never go to the channel, just in the hopes that maybe one of them will end up turning into the Kentucky Derby winner or someone else big down the line. So that way I could come back and post that video on the channel for all you to see them at the beginning of their career. But it was a lot of running back and forth, a lot of sprinting different places. But man, I wouldn't have changed it for anything. It was a whole lot of fun, and I hope you all enjoyed. It seems like a lot of you do enjoy seeing everything up close, and so I'm glad I'm able to bring you along to the races with me. But with all the races that we attended, we traveled a lot of miles this year, going to a whole bunch of different racetracks. So I thought it would be great to talk about what I consider to be my trip of the year. There was one trip that I took this year that just really stood out from anything else. And it was the very first trip of the year. It was the first time that I had ever traveled, you know, on my own to the point where I needed an airplane ticket, needed a hotel room, and to do it specifically for a horse race was pretty big. But it was for the right horse race. If you were watching the channel last year, 2021, you know I was a big fan of Knicks Go. He's one of my favorite horses over the last few years. I did not want to miss the last race of his career. And so I decided to go ahead and take my 2022 trip of the year. trip to Florida to Gulfstream Park to the Pegasus World Cup, it was amazing. It was so much fun. But by far, that 2022 Pegasus World Cup was my favorite trip of the year. But even though it was my favorite trip of the year, where does it stack up as far as race days this year? Well, this next list was pretty hard to make, but let's count down my top 5 race days of 2022 to attend. Really should come as no shock that the #1 race day of the year was Kentucky Derby Day. Put aside everything that happened with Rich Strike, with all the long shot stories and how incredible that was, the fact that this day is going to be talked about forever. But Kentucky Derby Day, it's just an experience unlike absolutely anything else. As someone that has attended a lot of races, goes to racetracks across the country, no race day can ever compare to what Kentucky Derby Day is like. All the excitement, the buildup as you're going throughout the day, you can feel the energy running through the crowds. When they're loading into the starting gate, and you have that silent hush just fall over the crowd as everybody waits in anticipation, followed by the sudden loud roar as the gate opens and everybody starts screaming at the top of their lungs for 2 minutes straight. It's unlike anything else. If you have never been to the Kentucky Derby before, you have to put it on your bucket list. You have to make sure you attend this race at least once in your life. You will not regret it. It is just a race unlike anything else, a race day unlike any other race day could possibly be, which is why it is the #1 race day of the year, at least for me. And probably, if you keep watching my channel into the future, if I keep doing this review each year, it's probably going to be the #1 race day of the year every single year. Also, just want to give a special shout out to Haskell Day. Haskell Day after the Kentucky Derby yearly is one of my favorite days to go to. Monmouth Park is my second favorite racetrack behind Churchill Downs. It was the first racetrack that I ever attended in person for the 2014 Haskell, and Monmouth just does such an amazing job with Haskell Day. I've been to it many times. This year was my 8th year attending the Haskell. The only year I've missed since 2014 was 2020 with the pandemic. And each year it is just constantly circled on my calendar as a day that I'm going to, a day I look forward to, and it's year after year one of my favorite days of racing. So even though it's not #1 and it doesn't pass the Kentucky Derby, I just want to make sure I give a shout out to Monmouth Park and the Haskell for all the great work that they do down there. It is such a fun experience if you're in the area and you have a chance to go. Also, shout out to Parks and the Pennsylvania Derby. Great race day there as well. That's one of my favorites as well, which is why you saw it in 3rd. Now that we've counted down the top 5 race days of the year, let's get into the individual races themselves. Here are my personal top 10 races of the year that I was able to film, that I was able to attend. These, in my opinion, that weren't necessarily the biggest races, some of them, but as someone looking back on 2022, these are the races that I'm going to enjoy most, the ones I'm going to go back to and watch to several times going into the future. So in 10 years from now, these are the 10 races that I will remember most in 2022. So number one should not have come to a shock to you. We just talked about how the number one race day was Kentucky Derby Day, so definitely the number one race of the year was the Kentucky Derby itself. You know, the Derby is unlike anything else, and especially with this year, with Rich Strike and the historic aspect of it, the second biggest long shot in 148 years, 80-1 odds, and just the story, everything that went with it is what made this race the race of the year. Now, I still, as a big racing fan that knows a lot of non-racing fans, I still hear people talking about how great this race was all these months later, now going into 2023, and people are still talking about how great of a race that 2022 Kentucky Derby was. However, the surprise on my list that probably a lot of people might have is actually my decisions on numbers 2 and number 3, the Lucas Classic versus the Breeders' Cup Classic. Now, to be fair, pretty much they're both tied at number 2 for me. Flightline winning the Breeders' Cup Classic was an absolutely insane experience to be at, especially with being able to be on the racetrack as he was pulling away and as he was winning that race. That is something I'll remember forever. But also something that I'll remember forever was the stretch run of the Lucas Classic. As Rich Strike and Hot Rod Charlie, as they started going at each other, the crowd just started to scream as Rich Strike took the lead. I have been to Churchill Downs on non-Kentucky Derby days so many times over the last few years, and I have never heard that grandstand get that loud outside of Kentucky Derby Day, other than when Rich Strike took the lead and it looked like he was going to win the race. In fact, I'll show it right here. You can see the moment in my video where I realized he actually had a chance to win, because I put the camera up to actually look with my own eyes around the camera and see whether or not I was seeing correctly that he was coming up and having a chance to win. And that was an incredible experience as well. I had a whole bunch of my friends with me for that race, and you can hear us in the video all screaming for him, cheering for him. And that's why I ended up getting the slight edge over Flightline's Breeders' Cup Classic. I put the two of them kind of there together, but the fact that it was a close race, it was an exciting finish rather than just a blowout the way Flightline's Breeders' Cup Classic was, it gets that slight edge to be my number 2 race this year over Flightline's Breeders' Cup Classic. But don't get me wrong, those 3 races, the Kentucky Derby, the Lucas Classic, and the Breeders' Cup Classic from 2022 will go down as probably 3 of my favorite races I've ever attended in my life. I would say all 3 of them are probably in my top 10. Well, now we've gone through the races, let's get to the horses. Obviously, the stars of the sport, the horses, they are the most important part of everything that I do here on the channel. The whole goal is to showcase these horses to all of you. These are some of the best ones that we have here in the United States. I've been so honored to be able to watch these guys do their work, do their thing day in and day out, getting to see them train in the mornings, getting to see them race in the afternoons, paddock schooling the days before. That's the best part of this for me, you know, as someone that's loved this sport since I was 4 years old. The horses got me into it, and being able to just see them, I get chills every time I see one of these big horses walk right in front of me. It's an incredible experience, and I'm glad that I get to share all that with all of you. But there were 10 horses for me that really stood out this year. Now, this is the top 10 horses of 2022 list, but these aren't necessarily the best as far as talent level goes that I saw this year. These are the 10 horses that I enjoyed filming the most, that I got the most butterflies in my stomach over seeing every time they walked out. And for some of them, part of the consideration was the impact that they had specifically on this channel, them bringing in views to the channel, bringing in new subscribers, bringing all of you to the point where now you can enjoy these races. So for me, these will be the top 10 horses for me personally as far as enjoyability here in 2022.
Like
And the A Pharaoh 12 channel's horse of the year obviously is no other than Rich Strike. Rich Strike, he has meant so much to me, so much to this channel this year. He is the one that really kind of helped to explode the popularity of this channel. His Kentucky Derby video is closing in on 1 million views. It's over 800,000 right now. It was an absolutely incredible year. All the follow-up videos that I made of him, they did really well. He continues to get a lot of views for the channel. So from a channel's perspective, he is far and away the horse of the year this year. He has meant so much to this and has meant so much to all of you watching. I see how much you all enjoy watching Rich Strike. I see how much you enjoy getting to see him up close, getting to follow along back with him in the barns, getting to follow along with him doing some paddock schooling. He has been by far the best part of this year for me, the best part of this channel for me, has been following Rich Strike this whole year. But on a personal level, Rich Strike, he has meant so much to me. As someone that grew up following the sport since I was 4 years old, the Kentucky Derby is what got me hooked. When I was young, the Kentucky Derby winners were my heroes. They were my idols, the ones I looked up to, not human athletes. I was looking up to the horses, the Kentucky Derby winners. They were an inspiration to me when I was younger. So this year was incredible, being able to be this close to a Kentucky Derby winner, to be able to just see him in the barn, see him training every day, have him look me in the eye as he's standing right in front of me. And there's so many times I went back to visit him that you never saw on this channel. So many times I got to see him, to talk to his connections, and I mean, it's a dream come true for me. This is what I hope that this channel will ultimately end up bringing me personally in the future, is the ability to be with these horses that I look up to, these horses that I love so much. This is what, everything that happened with Rich Strike this year, this is, my ultimate goal in this sport, is to be able to have experiences like this, to be able to feel like I'm that 4-year-old watching my first Kentucky Derby once again every time that these horses go walking past. So on a personal level, thank you, Rich Strike, for this year. Thank you to every member of his team, to Rick Dawson, the owner, to Eric Reed, the trainer, to Sonny Leone, the jockey, to his grooms, Jerry and Antonio, to everybody that is involved with that horse. There's too many people I got to talk to this year that I can't mention right here that were involved with him. But just thank you all so much for the access that you have given so many people, not just me, but so many people, to be able to see this horse and to love this horse and really turn him into America's horse. So thank you, Rich Strike, for an incredible 2022. You by far deserve, more than any other horse in my opinion, the channel's horse of the year. But of course, I can't end the video without mentioning Flightline. Flightline is a horse that I've been following since his very first career race. I remember watching his Malibu Stakes at the end of last year and being like, I need to see this horse next year. I need to go see this horse. So I watched and I waited, trying to find out exactly when he was going to be his next race, just like all of you are doing. And luckily for me, he ended up running on Belmont Stakes Day in the Met Mile. And I can't even explain the excitement that I felt in my stomach as he was walking past me. You could feel his greatness exuding off of him. And this is back in June, before he'd even done anything in his 2.25 mile races. It was just so exciting to be there and to be near him in the paddock, and everybody in the paddock was watching this horse, and he hadn't even reached the level of stardom yet that he ultimately would, and everybody was there watching for this horse. And so that was pretty cool. And to be with him at the Breeders' Cup in the mornings, there was points where I'll show some of the clips that as I was standing here filming these clips, I wasn't even looking at my screen, I was looking up at him, and I just went, wow. It's like you could just feel that this horse was something else. There's no words to describe what it was like to be in his presence. And he just walked knowing that he was the horse. He'd go walking past you, he'd go running past you, and you just knew he was the horse. And that was a really incredible thing to experience. And to be able to see him race twice this year, to be able to see him in the mornings leading up to the Breeders' Cup this year, it was incredible and an experience that I'll never forget. So thank you as well to Flightline for everything you did for horse racing this year, to showing off how great you are. so upset that we can't see more in 2023. I was prepared to go. I didn't care what it was going to take. I was going to attend at every race he ran in this year in 2023 had he come back. But I hope he has great success at stud. I hope that his kids can live up to the expectations that he has put forth. And just thank you, Flightline, for this year. That does bring us to the end of the 2022 review. I hope you all enjoyed watching this review, looking back at some of the memories that we had this year. And please let me know down in the comments below what memories you have. Let me know what video you first came to that brought you to the channel, which videos you continue to go back to throughout the year and watch again, just some of your favorite videos, your favorite clips, your favorite horses that we had here on the channel this year. Please let me know all that down below. I really enjoy seeing all your comments, talking about how much you enjoy these videos. I also enjoy getting to meet some of you in person. I've had the opportunity where a couple of you have come up to say hello and to talk to me in person as well, and I always enjoy those interactions. So feel free, if you see me at the racetrack, sometimes I look like I might be busy, but as long as I am not, in the process of filming a stakes race, feel free to come on up and say hello. You all watching these videos, has done so much for me as far as what I've been able to do this year. I've had a lot of great opportunities pop up for me that I was able to go to this year. Thanks to the support that you all have given me, some opportunities that will be coming up this year in 2023 that I'm going to be able to accomplish now, just thanks to the popularity that some of my videos have gotten and how much you all have watched them. And also, you all really helped to make it possible. There are certain videos this year that I never would have went to go visit if it was not for your support. And that is from watching the videos, watching the ads that pop up on the videos. I know those could be annoying, but those really go a long way into helping me make these videos for you. Perfect example is when we went to Ellis Park back in August to see Amanda Loon's little brother run in his debut race. I never would have been able to make that trip. I never would have bothered to make that trip if I didn't know if it was something that you all would enjoy seeing. So thank you all so much for all of that. I know several of you have asked before about donating to the channel, so to kind of help me out with some of this stuff going forward, some of the travel expenses and stuff like that. I will say within the next couple weeks, I am currently working on setting up a Patreon account. Let me know below if you are someone that would be interested in a Patreon account. Right now, my big struggle is trying to figure out what type of rewards to give you all for subscribing, what kind of special things I can do for you all. So if you have any ideas, behind the scenes footage, stuff of, me at the races, anything else like that, let me know in the comments down below. I greatly appreciate everything you all have done for me, and I hope to continue to do you proud here in 2023. We just came back from Oaklawn Park literally yesterday, which is why I didn't film this video until today. But it's trips like that that were made possible thanks to your support, thanks to everything that you guys have done for me in the last year, and I hope we continue to be able to make some cool videos throughout this year. We have a lot of ideas for 2023. We're going to be sticking towards the regular stakes footage like you've been watching for the last year, sticking with that, getting you up close and personal with the races, making you feel like you're at the racetrack. You saw we just tried out an edit in the Smarty Jones Stakes where I kept the numbers of the horses on the race as they were running throughout the race. Let me know what you thought of that. I thought that helps out a lot. I know one of the big complaints is not being able to see the entire race. That's what happens when you attend a race in person. You can't see most of it. You really only get to see the stretches, but hopefully by putting those numbers into place, that kind of helps you to follow along with what's going on a little bit easier throughout the running of the race. So hopefully that worked out well. That's something that I experimented with. We'll see if I continue going with that or not in the future. Let me know down below if you want to keep seeing that. We have ideas for other videos as well. We might have a couple guest stars coming up here in a little bit, kind of doing some face-to-face stuff like this, kind of some discussion topics. There's a lot of things to discuss in horse racing. I don't really care as much about the betting part of it, so I want there to be more content online where we're talking about the fandom of the sport and not necessarily just who we're picking race by race. And so we're gonna have a couple discussion topics, so look for that here in the next couple of weeks. We'll be doing the first one of those here pretty soon. We'll also some other ideas, like if you liked the Atlantic City trip where I went into the history of that racetrack a little bit more, I'd love to keep doing that. Going into the history of the sport a little bit more, and just different things like that. I want this channel to be about the fandom of the sport, getting up close with the horses, but also delving into the past a little bit, kind of discussing some of the things going on here in the current times, and just making this an outlet for us to be fans of the sport, because this sport is so much fun and so enjoyable. And at the end of the day, that's all I want, is for everybody to be able to enjoy it. But that brings us to the end of our 2022 review. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for the support. Keep an eye out for the last couple Oaklawn Park videos over the next few days, and let's have a big 2023. Happy New Year to all of you, and I can't wait to see you all back here again for whatever the next race may be.